Hello, I'm here. So I was just getting a drink. Welcome to the Learning Lab, Instructor Edition. Today we're going to be talking about teaching. We're going to be talking about ways to help you understand whether or not your students are getting it. And this will be a series of 3, the first in a series of 3. So I hope you're ready. And it'll probably be pretty short. All 3 of these will be relatively short compared to previous episodes. So I hope that you are going to find it very helpful. Please say hi in the live stream chat. If you can hear me, I'd appreciate you letting me know. Welcome. Also, I was just trying to get myself a drink here. So let me take care of this very quickly. Can you guys hear me okay? All right, I'm going to assume, let me see here. I can do a little self-check here. Test, test. Okay, I'm thinking you can hear me. All right, so today's topic, let me pull this up. Okay, I've got it right here. Our title is Confirming Student Understanding Without Tests. So you can do these things on the fly, but it's good to be prepared. So if you have paper and pencil, you might want to get it ready, or you can always circle back to the show notes and go through this exercise again later. And there'll also be a button in here to watch this in a replay. And there'll be links to this, to the other 2 episodes, and each of those will link back to this. And one of these will actually link back to a previous episode. So there's lots to learn about understanding whether or not your students are getting what you're teaching. Are you sharing your learning objectives? And there's actually transference. We want information to transfer for long-term use. So let me just quickly read our introduction. Hello, Karen. Welcome. Hi, Beverly. You can hear me okay? I have a new seat on my chair and it doesn't feel like it's in the right place. Okay, so here we go. Many instructors wonder how to tell whether their students are truly understanding the game. In Mahjong, actual learning appears in decision making and growing confidence during play. By observing skill builders, guided play, and coaching conversations, instructors can see how students think through the game and whether understanding is taking hold. So here's 3 opening prompts for you to think about to kind of get the juices flowing. The first one is, now think about maybe a recent lesson. When you look around the table, what indicators tell you a student is starting to understand the game? When you look around the table, what indicators tell you a student is starting to understand the game? I think for one, the deer in the headlights look is gone. And I think I don't want to jump to the next question, so I'm being careful with what I'm saying. for indicators that they're getting it, looking at the card, looking at their hand, and then looking at the table. So kind of a 3-point check, or maybe even a 4-point check. The card, their hand, exposures, discards, and then on repeat. Card, hand, exposures, discards. When they're looking in all those places, that's when I think they're getting it, because all those things come into play. Fewer. What do you mean fewer? What did I miss, Beverly? Hi, Deborah. When you look around the table, what indicators tell you a student is starting to understand the game? Fewer questions. Oh, fewer questions. Okay, they have fewer questions. That would be a good indicator. Absolutely. Fewer questions. Yeah, because in the beginning, there are a lot of questions. Absolutely. That's a good one. Okay, here's the next question, or prompt, I should say. What behaviors suggest a student is still guessing rather than reasoning? Guessing rather than reasoning. What behaviors? So we're not talking about verbal. This is not a verbal cue. This would be maybe body language, micro expressions. What behaviors suggest a student is still guessing rather than reasoning? I think one of those would be an indicator that they're guessing, or maybe during the Charleston when they pick up a pass and go, maybe the shrugging of the shoulders, shoulder shrugging would be guessing. The reasoning behavior would be smooth movement. Pick up a discard or pick up a pass and place it on the table with no shrugging, no quirky facial expressions. Instead of confused looks, smiles. Good, Deborah, that's good. Confirming their thinking. Yeah, smiles, absolutely. Happy looks instead of confused or even frustrated looks. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next. How do you currently check whether students are following the lesson without putting them on the spot? How do you currently check whether students are following the lesson without putting them on the spot? I think I like using the word everybody. That doesn't single out any single person. Is everybody ready for the next step? How does everyone feel about moving on? So using the word everybody, so that it's a group decision. If anybody needs more time, let me know. That would single somebody out. Let's see. So how would someone in the class indicate that they're not ready? I suppose that would be on them to speak up at that point. So you're not singling them out. They're putting themselves out there. So after you ask something like, is everybody ready to move on? You're prompting the group. And then at that point, the onus is on the individual to step up and say, I'm not ready. So you're not the one putting anyone on the spot, technically. Let's see, ask topic-specific questions to the group. See who answers. See who steps up to answer a question. They would be the ones who are ready. Maybe the ones who are quiet might need a little more coaching, although they could just be introverts. Hi, Janice. Okay. So think about these 3 questions, not just now, but even afterwards. So now we're going to do 3 talking points about how to confirm student understanding without tests. The first is on skill builders. Skill builders, I believe in them. I think they're an excellent activity, but they're also a great assessment tool. Skill builders reveal thinking. They're not just to get people engaged. They're not just to get people active. They actually reveal thinking. Structured skill builders create short, focused exercises that allow instructors to observe how students process information. These exercises isolate specific skills, such as evaluating hand strength, identifying patterns, or planning discards. And they allow they allow instructors to coach students through the reasoning behind their decisions. Tracking improvement over time shows whether understanding is deepening. When I do a multi-session lesson, so lesson 1, let's say fundamentals, lesson 1 or session 1 is the fundamentals. Session 2 would be gameplay, probably open-handed with coaching. And then session 3 would be strategy, and then open play with coaching, and maybe closed play at that point. So let's say 4 sessions in a lesson. Each activity that starts each session is a skill builder. So maybe we do random pulls. I'll put a link to my skill builders in here after this episode, so that you can look at the skill builders that I use in my lessons. And on my videos, I use them as well. So let's say the first one would be random pulls to practice identifying the strength of the hand. Then we would do Charleston modeling, which is taking it a little bit further, where students are practicing decision-making through the Charleston. And then the next 2 would be some kind of a lens on top of Charleston modeling to focus on a specific skill. For example, chain reaction, Charleston chain reaction. This is where you identify 2 different ways you could go with the same tiles. And then you do the Charleston through 1, then you reset with the same tiles, the same passes, same order, and then you focus on the other option and you compare the results. That's another really great lesson for instincts, testing your instincts without a test. It's an activity, no paper involved. So then another good exercise or skill builder is Charleston sprints, to help people make quick decisions, where you have a timer and they have to make decisions in under 4 minutes as an average. So those are some examples of skill builders that I have found to be very helpful. Let's see, use examples from when you, the teacher, experience issues or concerns to make students feel at ease. Yep, mentoring. That's mentoring, where you share your own experiences. That is a great way to be relatable and approachable. Absolutely. Our students are not alone. We all started in the same place. Okay, so skill builders, they reveal thinking. They're very helpful, and it's a great way to create engagement. If you are teaching a group and you feel like you're losing them, doing a skill builder on the fly right then and there is a great way to draw everybody in. It's also a great activity after a lunch break, because a lot of times after lunch, having food in your system makes you want to slow down, maybe even go to sleep. Doing a skill builder after a lunch break is another great way to get everybody re-engaged. Okay, so skill builders, remember that. The next talking point that we have is Socratic questions confirm understanding. Socratic questions. So if you don't already know, I'm new to Socratic questioning, relatively new. I've been studying it for probably, I'd say 3 months now, about 3 months. I never really knew there was a name for it. It's basically open-ended questions. So you're not giving a yes or no question. You're using questions that require a full-on response to show that the other person is thinking. So a yes, no, there's very little thinking involved there. But if you ask Socratic questions, open-ended questions, that person is going to need to think through their answer before they speak. So Socratic questions confirm understanding. Students often reveal their level of understanding when they explain their thinking. Asking questions such as, what made you choose that discard? Or what made you choose those 3 tiles in that last pass or in your current pass? What is your thinking around this current pass? And then they could speak out loud. And if they're going to make a mistake, you can either let them make a mistake, or you could say something like, I invite you to consider level of risk. Is there a way that you can mitigate risk in this pass with other tiles in your hand? That's another open-ended question. You're not telling them what to do. You're asking them a question so that they have a minute to look and reason and then speak and maybe mitigate risk in a pass. For that example. Here's another one. What pattern are you seeing in your hand? The one I like to use is when you got this dealt hand, or when you see a dealt hand, depending on whether you're right there and they got a dealt hand, or whether you're talking hypothetically. When you get a dealt hand, what goes through your mind? If you get a dealt hand where you have all single tiles, what goes through your mind? And that requires them to think back and picture what they're seeing, and then maybe think about how they're feeling. And then they would articulate what's going on. Those are open-ended questions. Hi, Merle. Let's see. Okay, so now these kinds of questionings allow instructors to hear the reasoning process. You give them time to think out loud. The conversations often reveal whether the student is applying what they're learning or simply guessing. Because what you're going to hear if they're guessing would be a question or hesitation, maybe inflection in the way they're using their words. When they speak, they may end with an upward inflection that makes it sound like a question. That could be an indicator of guessing. Or I should say of guessing. All right, so use Socratic questions. And I'll link back. I already did link back in the show notes to a previous, oh, actually, that was another one of our future episodes. I will create a link to Socratic questions. We had an episode a few weeks ago on Socratic questions in the Instructor Edition of Learning Lab Instructor Edition. Okay, so here's our third talking point. Guided play creates the best feedback. Guided play. I typically call it play with coaching, and even play with coaching as needed. So you're not going to step in all the time. You want to leave space for their learning to evolve and unfold. You don't want to interrupt the learning. So it takes discipline and restraint for an instructor to let the learning happen. But guided play, as needed, creates the best feedback. Open play, guided play, play with coaching, all those are synonymous. Combined with light coaching, provides one of the clearest windows into student learning. As students play hands in real time, instructors can observe patterns in their choices, offer brief coaching prompts, and note where understanding is strong or where additional clarification may be needed. So what you could do is observe, maybe have the students play a game where you observe and take notes, note where there may need to be some review, and then pause the play and then do a little bit of a review. That way you're not calling any individual out in the group could learn based on what you observed, and then do another game and repeat that process. So game, observe, review if needed. Game, observe, review. So have your smart device with you to take notes, or paper and pen, so that you can take notes and then do a review. And that way you're not interrupting the game. You're not interrupting the learning. Even if mistakes happen, it's okay. And then also you're not putting any one person on the spot, which can be, it can be deflating, I guess you could say. So, all right, any questions about these talking points, or anybody want to make any comments that I missed in the chat? Skill builders reveal thinking, Socratic questions confirm understanding, and guided play creates the best feedback. Those are 3 things that you could incorporate in your lessons if you're not already. These would be great additions for a good, strong lesson where players will leave feeling like they learned something they can take away with them and apply. All right, so I thought we could try an activity, design a skill builder. Design a skill builder. So the first thing that you want to do is observe and then identify where the struggle lies and create a skill builder around that struggle. So random pulls, where you practice identifying the strength of the hand, came because I noticed that people struggled with where to start. So I created random pulls. Pull up 13 tiles, look at the tiles and figure out what strength you can leverage in that hand. And then identify it or say it out loud, throw the tiles in and do it again. Identify the strength of the hand, throw the tiles in and do it again. Those are random pulls. That's a skill builder. All the Charleston modeling exercises are all skill builders. They all help practice Charleston decision making, because the Charleston is a huge part of the game. If you can master the Charleston, you can master the game, in my opinion, because the Charleston will set you up for success if you end up with that transformation you're looking for. Of course, you have to make the right decisions at the right time, which is why we practice. That's why we practice. Okay, so think about a skill that you see your students need help with, and then just maybe brainstorm a list. So let's just take a minute to brainstorm some skills that can work well in the form of a skill builder, a hands-on activity, nothing that requires paper and pencil, something that requires hands-on with the tiles. Or if you're playing online, maybe using an online platform, that would be fine too. So see if you could come up with, let's say 3. We're just going to take a few seconds, like a minute, less than a minute. See if you could come up with 3 skills that you could focus on and create maybe one skill builder for the best choice. So just brainstorm for a minute, and I'll be quiet while you do that. Okay, does everybody have three skills that maybe they could think about? I have on this list as examples 4. One is hand strength evaluation. I've already got a skill builder for that. I call it random pulls. Then we have pattern recognition. I think that would be category modeling, where you do a random pull, and then actually I think pattern recognition would be random pulls, but you could do category modeling where the players build a hand on the card. That would be a good category or a pattern recognition exercise. Reading exposures, hand reading basically, but there's more than just exposures that come into play. You got to look at discards too. So just looking at exposures is not going to necessarily teach a full-on hand reading exercise. You need a lot of variables in place for that. The other one on here that I was looking at, and I think I probably could come up with a skill builder for that I currently don't have, but it is going to require setup, which is going to be hard for the instructor, and that is discard planning. I mean, you could have random tiles, but the time when you start with random tiles is the deal, and that's really more Charleston decision making, not actual discarding. As far as the pick and discard phase of the game, you'd have to create an actual developed hand with unwanted tiles. Then maybe you could do a begin game example, a middle game example, and an end game example, where you also have discards and exposures. So that's what I mean when it will take a lot of work, because if someone has a well-developed hand and they have a couple of discards, before they can just tell you which one would be best, they would need to see the discards and exposures. So I'll think about discard planning, and that's the example I'll use here. So does anybody want to share any of their examples that they have? I'll give you a minute and no pressure. If you don't want to share, it's okay. But if anybody would like to share an example that they came up with. Okay, so the next step would be to describe an activity that would isolate that skill. So for discard planning, for example, the activity would need to be observe, decide, execute. So they would need to look at their hand, look at their unwanted tiles, then check the discards and exposures, and then wall depth as well. So there would be 1, 2, 3, 4 different checkpoints. 4 different checkpoints. So you would want to make sure that the exercise has them consider all 4 checkpoints. And if they miss a checkpoint, then there needs to be some kind of review so that they can learn to immediately identify those 4 checkpoints. Give students next, or this is an example, give students a sample dealt hand and ask them to identify the best discard in this example with planning discards. So again, you'd have to make sure that you give them the variables so that they could make an informed decision. Okay, so the first one would be to identify a skill that you want to build, then define it, basically build it out, explain what it is that you want them, the players, to do in that exercise. And then next would be to include a coaching prompt. What question would you ask to reveal their thinking? So an example would be considering what you see on the table and how the status of your hand, the level of development that you've reached in your hand, which of your 3 discards would be the best one to let go of right now. So you would want them to verbalize what's going on in their head, because they would say, okay, this is what you would hope. This would be the best case, or this would be an answer that indicates that they get it. So they would say, well, I have a pretty well-developed hand. I do have a weakness. I know what hand I'm playing. I have no gaps, but I need 2 pair, and I have only 2 singles. I have 3 discards. So I would say if it is let's say it's the middle game. So they would say, I think I'm a contender, so I can take a little bit of risk. Since we're in the middle of the game, I think any of these discards would be good. So if they stopped there, that would be a moment for some Socratic questioning, because they didn't talk about the discards and they didn't talk about the exposures. So let's say that someone then would, maybe without that example, let's say we'll go a little further. So I think I'm a contender, so I can take a little risk. However, one of my opponents has 2 exposures, and I need single tile. I need 2 pair, but my tiles are out in discards. We're in the middle of the game. My chances of getting the 2 pair that I need is pretty slim. So I probably should decide now if I'm going to fold or continue pursuing this win. That would be an indicator that they get the game. So you're looking for the checkpoints that you establish in the exercise part when you define your skill builder. What are the checkpoints that you want them to be able to articulate? And then you hear their thoughts out loud. You have them practice thinking aloud so that you can confirm their understanding, and then coach where needed. And use Socratic questioning. Okay, so Deborah says, not sure I understand. You thought a couple of visual skills to improve upon. Number 1, asking to do a visual search on the card for a chow. Okay, that would be a good fundamentals exercise. So kind of a scavenger hunt activity. That would be a skill builder. That would be an activity that wouldn't require any kind of a test. It would be a verbal assessment, I suppose you could say. Another idea would be something to cover the variation of colors to help explain the card. something to cover the variation of colors to help explain the card. Yeah, you came up with answers after I moved on. Oh, I see, no worries. So what you're explaining in number 2 is what I have in my lesson kit. I have a lesson kit with modeling strips that have hands in different colors. So I give a modeling strip to the students and they have to create that hand. And that tells me whether or not they get how to interpret change in color means change in suit in the hand. So that is what I've done in my lesson kit. So great minds think alike. Okay, so now you want to think of as far as a skill builder where let's say where they've already learned the fundamentals. So they know how to read the card. They know how to identify the strength of the hand. They know how to get started. So maybe the skill builder would be for next level play. So they've been through the fundamentals. We're moving on to the next step where they're playing the game more confidently, or we want to get them there. We want to get them to the next step. So you're going to create a skill builder to help them practice some kind of skill to help them play more confidently. So you would identify a skill that you want them to practice. Then you want to define it, give them some checkpoints, boundaries, some kind of reflection, something to help them grab onto as they do the activity. And then you want to give them some kind of a coaching prompt or something they could even ask themselves if they're doing it alone. And then you observe what behavior would show the student is starting to understand the concept. So if they're thinking out loud, then you would be listening for clarity, articulation. If they aren't getting it, you would be looking for hesitation, stammering, deer in the headlights, shoulder shrugging, things like that. So you want to observe all those things, the body language, the behavior, word choice, tone, delivery. You want to observe all those things so that you can figure out whether or not they're actually getting it. And then you would do some kind of review if needed, or accolade, give them praise if they've got it right, and then move on to the next student, or do a review and say, okay, if let's say the discard planning is the skill builder, and maybe they did not look at 2 checkpoints, discards and exposures, you could stop and say, okay, Michelle, thank you for participating in that activity. I don't know if anyone else has discomfort with discard planning, but here's the process. When you are, depending on where you are in the game, these are the things that you want to look at and then do the 4-point check. You want to look at your hand, identify the strength of your hand and your position, count the number of discards you have, then look at the discards and exposures and how many picks are left in the wall. All those things are going to tell you whether or not you should play to win or fold and block. That's when you're able to look at your discards based on that decision and decide if you're going to discard risky or break up your hand and discard safely. So you want to do that kind of review if the student who is doing the skill builder struggles. You want to take it to the group level rather than point it out to that person. Okay, Michelle, tell me what those checkpoints are. That kind of puts the person on the spot. So instead you would say, thank you, Michelle, for doing that exercise. So let's just do a review. When we blah, 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 and then do the checkpoints as a group, high level, that way everyone benefits and nobody feels on the spot, on the hot seat. Skill builder for pivoting, thinking alternatives. Alternative. Yeah, alternative hands, options, hand options. Okay, yep. Okay, skill builder for pivoting. That's an excellent one. And that is a really big topic right now that I'm seeing in social media. I've seen in a lot of new instructors in these reels and shorts on social media, I hear them talking about pivoting, but they don't go deep enough. A lot of the reels and shorts that are out on social media right now do not go deep enough. And I think my concern is they're creating false confidence in people. There's a lot more that goes on with pivoting than just seeing common patterns on a card. So it's really important. And I think creating an actual skill builder for pivoting where there are maybe checkpoints would be a fabulous idea. So Deborah, I love that. I absolutely love that. We're definitely follow through on that for sure. So you want to make sure that you define the exercise, create checkpoints, or maybe create questions that a player could ask themselves before they make the decision. Then maybe if they're doing it independently, give them a method to document their decisions so they could work with you later. Or they could practice on their own and then come back to class and do the exercise in class so that you could observe. Because everyone on their own doing a skill builder is operating in a vacuum. They may think they're doing well, but until they perform being observed by an instructor, they may or may not get the feedback they actually need. All right, any other comments before we do reflections? I think discard planning and pivoting are two really good skill builders that are untapped right now. So if you want to leverage that, maybe create something innovative. Innovate. Everybody innovate. Innovate on discard planning skill builder and pivoting skill builder. Maybe we could come up with a few exercises together. Send me an email with what you come up with. I'd be happy to look at it and give you some critique. And I'll try to create some as well. I actually do have a skill builder for pivoting already, but it is part of my signature talk. So I don't advertise, I don't share that one except in my talks. But the discard planning, I do have one that is defined called outside in. I could probably create an exercise or skill builder based on that. So I will work on that and maybe add it to the outside in wiki article. Okay, so now reflections. I have 3 questions. What signs tell you a student is beginning to trust their own reasoning when they play the game? Someone did answer this, I think, with a really good answer earlier. You watched the Outside In YouTube video. Oh, excellent. What did you think of that? That was actually inspired by Ricci Mahjong and applied to American Mahjong. It's kind of a different concept, but it works. It makes decision-making super quick too. Okay, what signs tell you a student is beginning to trust their own reasoning at the table? I would say fewer questions, which somebody said earlier. Was it Beverly? No, yeah, it was Beverly. Beverly said fewer questions. Okay, here's another one. Oh, somewhere else had seen a suggestion about using lower and higher tiles for discarding. So it resonated with you and you use that strategy. Yeah, I call them outside tiles, edge tiles, because they're on the edge of the run. 1, 9, 2, 8, 3, 7. Yeah. Excellent. Very good. Okay, the next question or the next reflection. How could skill builders help you observe learning more clearly in your lessons? Actually, let me just ask this first. Do you currently use skill builders in your lessons? That's not an open-ended question. What skill builders do you use in your lessons currently? That is a Socratic question. So, what skill builders are you currently using in your lessons? Let me know in the live stream chat. Oh, this seat cushion is, it's super thick and my feet don't touch the ground. So, okay, let's see. You're not a part of the guild, but planning to teach in the spring. Oh, okay. Taking all this in. Awesome. So you're an aspiring instructor. Well, let me tell you something. The guild is for people just like you. The guild is for aspiring and current instructors. You don't have to be an instructor to be in the guild. That's why we're here, because we support anyone who wants to teach or is teaching the game. So there are a lot of resources behind the guild wall that you could benefit from. So just think about it. No pressure. We're here. We're here for you when you're ready. And these Thursday live streams, you can come as you are, come as often as you like. There are a lot of videos you can watch already. Now, Deborah, are you aware of the website resource hub for this live stream? We have a resource hub on the MAHJLIFE website that has show notes for all the previous episodes. This is just one of many. And you're welcome to join the guild anytime you want, anytime you're ready. We're here for you. Okay, so we have one more question or one more reflection. These are reflections. These are things that you need to think about after our discussion today. What is one skill builder you could introduce in your next class to gauge understanding? So if you're not doing skill builders right now, based on some of the things we talked about, the few of the skill builders came up. I shared all the ones I use. Is there any, would any one of those work for maybe an upcoming lesson that you could try out? I will add a link to the skill builders in the wiki. If you go to the wiki on MAHJLIFE and type skill builders as keywords, you will find that article. And the skill builders are defined, and there's even a video example of each one. So you're welcome to take those and use them in your lessons. That concludes our session today. Short and sweet. Would anybody like to share their thoughts or comments about this topic? Again, the title was Confirming Student Understanding Without Tests. Skill builders, basically, in a nutshell. And they're awesome because they're timeless. You can learn a skill builder as a beginner and still use it as an advanced player. We all get rusty. We all take skills for granted over time. So skill builders are great for everybody, no matter what level player you are, especially with a new card coming out. You can reuse the skill builders every time a new card comes out. Random pulls, category modeling even. A lot of instructors do category modeling when the new card comes out to get to know the card, and then random polls to shorten their learning curve, and then Charleston modeling to take it another step. That's what I do. Okay, thanks, Michelle. Enjoyed it. Excellent. You're excited to work on Skill Builder for discard and pivoting. You see the newbies struggle when the teacher just threw them into play. Oh my gosh, yeah. Yeah, that's where students get overwhelmed and maybe hesitant to play the game. Hello, Wes. Welcome. No worries. We're talking about skill builders. Our topic today was confirming student understanding without tests. So the discussion is all about skill builders you can use in class to help give students an opportunity to demonstrate transference or lack thereof. You got to make sure that your students are getting what you're given. Does anybody have any questions about today's topic? Because then we could open it up for general questions. We're here to support aspiring and current instructors. So if anybody would like to ask any questions about teaching practice, the game itself, rules, skills, strategies, sportsmanship, etiquette, all those things. We have about 7 minutes before the top of the hour. While you're thinking, I'll give you a minute to think about that. But just for sake of conversation, I thought I would mention that I was made aware through social media that there's yet another card out there. So there's actually 4 cards that came out. What was it called? Oh. The American Mahjong Society. Another card. So there's the Mahjong line, the big card. Well, the Mahjong line is the big card. Then Oh My Maj International card. Then there's the American Mahjong Society card. And then the other one, which I forget what it's called. What was the other one? I keep thinking of the word bamboo. Is that the name of their company? The bamboo something or other? What's the name of that card? It's like brown. It's a brown card. Bamboo, no. What is the name of that 4th card? Hi, Sylvia. The international card, the big card. Oh, Mahjong Society, American. Oh, I'm already stumbling over all these. American Mahjong Society. Okay. I don't know if I want to put it in I did have these in a wiki article at one time. I don't know if I want to do that. The Mahjong line is the international, no, the big card. Oh My Mahjong is the international card. Then the American Mahjong Society. It's just that card. And then there's a fourth one. What is that fourth card? Something about bamboo keeps coming to mind. I don't know why. Alternative cards. People are calling them alternative cards. Marvelous Mahjong is one. And then there's another one, but I forget the name of it. Do people use these cards in place of the lead card? I mean, some do, I think, but I think most people teach with the National Mahjong lead card. I'm pretty sure, I hope. You plan on videoing your training to help improve. You've done lots of training when you worked for the government, so you're comfortable with teaching. Oh, Deborah, you should join the guild. You want to review and improve where possible. That's excellent mind frame. You bought a set to play with family, but you only teach with the National Mahjong League card. Which card did you get? I have the big card, and that's it. But I forget. There's one other card, and I don't remember the name of it. Did I put it in an article? Let me look. Does anybody have any questions about their teaching practice that we can help with? Any trouble with lessons or any challenges with classroom dynamics that you would like help with? We're here to support you. So now's the time. We have just a couple more minutes. And of course, we're here every Thursday. So if you have something you'd like to ask about later, you know where to go and you know where to come. Oh, the Mahjong news. That's it. That's the one. Okay. The Mahjong news. Okay, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 alternative cards. National Mahjong League is the flagship. Ah, okay, Sylvia, I understand. Let me see. Oh, I do have alternative cards on here. I guess I'll have to add another one. The Mahjong line. Oh, my Mahjong. Oh, Mahjong Press is the name of it. The Mahjong Press, and now the Mahjong Society. American Mahjong Society. I wonder when they got established. No, that's not what I wanted. You thought you'd buy all the cards just to see as teaching moment that there are other ones out there, but only the National Mahjong League is original. It's really they are the flagship. They are the they're the ones who created the American Mahjong version. And all these other businesses, all these other publishers of cards are using their game theory, for lack of a better term, for the basis of their card. What is the crown with the 1, 2, 3 behind it next to, wait a minute. What is the crown with the 1, 2, or 3 behind it next to chatters? I'm sorry, Deborah, what does that mean? Um, 2013. They've been around since 2013. I've never even heard of them. Oh my gosh, no, this person is misquoting. That person doesn't know what they're talking about. American Mahjong Society is different than the American Mahjong League. The National Mahjong League is different than American Mahjong Society. Next to the chat name in responses. I don't see a 1, 2, 3. I might see something different than others. I don't see what you're seeing. It could be how long they've been a subscriber, maybe. I'm not sure. All right. I'll find out. So there are quite a few alternative cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 alternative, 8. 7 current alternative. No, not all are present. Pending. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, 7 actually. 7 alternative cards currently besides the league. Huh. Maybe you don't see it. Maybe one of the people in the chat can respond. Do you guys see a crown of some kind in the live stream chat? And does anybody have any questions? I'd be more than happy to help, or we as a group would be more than happy to help you. I'm going to go onto my YouTube channel and see if I can see what you're talking about here. I don't want to create a, all right, not sure. I'll find out though and let you know. Okay, let's see. It is related to chat participation, but you're not sure what it's used for. Chat participation. How many times you comment in live chat. Thanks. Thank you, Janice and Wes. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sign off then. Thanks for hanging out. And then also next week, we are going to talk about ending lessons with reflections. That's another way to ensure that there's transference with your teaching. So that's what will be on the docket for next week. Sylvia, slacker. Not really. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, consider subscribing. Make sure you check that little gray bell. That way, if you select all, you'll get notification from YouTube when I go live or upload a new video, and you won't miss an opportunity to learn a new strategy or pick up an insight to the game that could give you an advantage at the table. Between now and the next video, may all your picks be keepers.